Am I visible? Yes. Two are there now. Good evening. Good evening. Uh, yeah, it depends. It depends on what level you are taking, and actually, it's also like you are planning it for December 2026, right? So you have sufficient amount of time in between, so you can do a thorough practice. You don't have to rush the practice. Given that it depends on what level. Let's say if you are taking the N5 level, then you don't have to worry at all because it will be a very comfortable journey. 1 year is a like if you don't have any hurries. Usually there are students, especially students are there, na? So they don't have any hurry as such. They just want to test their level, and that in itself is a good thing. So they are not in a particular hurry, and like as if there is no company requirements or such as things as such. So you can take it at a comfortable level. You can start the courses. You can start with the hiragana. You can start learning with hiragana, katakanas. You can practice it thoroughly so that you don't get confused between them. You can start learning vocabulary at a much better pace. So let's say even if you are planning for an N5 in the December, you should be even like you can even be prepared for the N4 at that level because 1 year is a decent enough time. Actually, if you might, a lot of people do not know this, but JLPT originally did conducted a survey. It did conduct a survey, which saw key like what is the average time that people take in order to pass a JLPT level, and they saw key, for example, let's say they bifurcated into two compartments. So basically, one was the Chinese people and one was the non-Chinese people. This is important. This is important because Chinese people are thorough with their kanjis. They are very familiar kanjis, so they take a relatively less amount of time. And if you have a good, like if you have a one entire year in hand, you can trust me, you can almost easily pass the N4 level also. Yes. If you have too much, and I usually say ki it's not about the years or months, it's more about the number of hours that you put in. So let's say if you have even more hours in your hand, you can also try for N3 also. Sandhana, hello sir, any last minute tips and tricks for N4? By the way, you can just study the kanjis. Study the kanji is more important. So in the beginning, you will have questions. For example, let's say identify the kanjis and identify the meanings of the like not the meanings of the kanjis. First question will be kanjis and identify the pronunciation, and then it will be the pronunciation will be given, and you have to identify the correct kanji for that. So that, if possible, try to solve it as much as possible. Where will you solve it? By the way, where will you get these materials? You have online. You can try to solve the sample question paper that is provided by the JLPT. That also helps. So you at least get a matter of how the JLPT is conducted. So you get a thorough study of that also. At the last moment, what you should do for JLPT N4? For N4, you should remember the major verb forms that are there. So you have the passive form, you have the causative form, you have the imperative form, you have the volitional form. That these are the ones that are coming new in N4. not causative. I would say causative. You can keep it like you should know it. It's better, but it is not that important for info. For passive, passive, imperative, volitional. These forms are very very important for info. Yes, so these make a cheat sheet of them. Try to know the even the tear form. A lot of people I've seen they don't remember the tear form. So make a cheat sheet, stick it on your wall or something, and practice it again and again and again. So you're not you know doing the wrong conjugations. Your conjugations, you're thorough with your conjugations. Do that, practice that. Also try to create cheat sheets for let's say the vocabulary that you are having difficulty to understand and create sets of vocabulary. So let's say this is the sports based vocabulary, this is the family based vocabulary, this is the let's say food based vocabulary. So make these chits of vocabulary so at least you have some decent amount of vocabulary that is diverse through different fields and you are not learning, for example, let's say I can sit and learn 100 vocabulary, then and 100 of those words are related to medicine. Trust me, that is not a good approach because JLPT is not a medicine exam. It is going to ask you for vocabulary that is spread across a wide range. So you should also try to learn vocabulary from different sectors. Try to get the main topics, for example, let's say family, time, adverbs, adjectives. These are some main bifurcations. How to learn the other kind of vocabulary? How to learn your adjectives? Your adjectives, you should also always try to learn them as opposite pairs. That is what I usually suggest to my students. Learn them as opposite pairs. Thakai. Thakai expensive ka konsa opposite? Yasui. Thakai, yasui. So kono kaban wa thakai desu, kono kaban wa yasui desu. Thakai has another meaning, which is the meaning of high, as in high-rise buildings and things like that. So kono biru wa thakai desu. उसका opposite yasui होगा. No, 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 no. That will not. Yasui only means inexpensive, like that is cheap. So what will be the opposite for that? That will be hikui. Hikui. So learn them as pairs. Yes. Hello. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible by the way? Uh, yes. I hope I'm audible. Can anyone confirm me for that? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. Yes. So this is the thing that I want to say. So basically, yeah, thank you for confirming. So for N4, let's say if you're learning for adjectives, learn them as pairs and not even adjectives for that matter. Some nouns also form a good pair. For example, let's say you are forming like not nouns as such like kawaisa and minikusa, but that would be like noun forms of adjective only. It would be better if you start with adjectives. And then if a noun has a opposite pair, you feel ki yes, this noun has some kind of an opposite. For example, you have this noun called city, Thoshi, and you want to talk about a village that is the rural side, Inaka, Thoshi and Inaka. So these kind of pairs. Kudamono, Yasai. That is Kudamono is fruits and Yasai is vegetables. So these kind of words that go together, these kind of phrases that go together. And one tip that I want to teach you, like if you are giving it tomorrow, then yes, it is like it will be a not a like it will not be a last time like last moment study. But let's say if you are going to give it next year or next to next year, I would always say whenever you are learning vocabulary, learn it in context. Context is one of the most important parts of Japanese. And whenever you are learning any new vocabulary, let's say a new word, learn it through a sentence. Learn it through a sentence. One. If I had to give you one suggestion from my side, you can go to Jisho. If you know Jisho, if you do not know Jisho, Jisho is the most trustworthy dictionary relating to Japanese language. So go to Jisho, type out that word, and into the left hand side, now you have a lot of links. If you just hover over that link, now there are a lot of links over there. So go to one of those links, and there you will find the sentences, sentences relating to that vocabulary. Try to read those sentences so that you understand in what context you should know those vocabulary. Yes, I hope Shantanu-san, I helped you for that. And by the way, what are some other things that you can practice? You can also practice your chokai. Chokai, that is your listening. One way of doing is by solving the actual one that is then like the JLPT provide, that is just JLPT, for example, let's say the sample questions that they provide, you can solve them. And you also have an application called Thodai. I will just write it on the Yes. Todai also offers like one or two question papers, so you can also solve their listening parts if you want to. Solve their grammar parts, vocabulary parts, reading parts, and time yourself. Actually, you don't even have to do the app itself does it for you. So it's a very good way to to judge your own level, ki at what level you are Todai. Okay, to get yes, yeah. So I hope that okay that solves the question. Yeah. Yes. How to solve Dokkai questions. So if you are at a level of N5, and let's say you're like, and for any level for that matter, you have Dokkais, and Dokkais are bifurcated into a lot of sections. Now, mostly for Dokkai, the higher, it is mostly based on advanced level. So Dokkai, you don't have to worry about like not understanding a lot. But there are some sections. There are some sections that are there for all levels. For example, you have reading such as short passages and mid-sized passages. Now, how to understand this? How do you learn this? First, try to understand what is being said in the question, not the passage, what is being said in the question. Like, let's say if the question is asking one particular thing about the passage, don't sit and read the entire passage, just skim through it. Let's say if in the first passage I'm not able to understand anything, no issues, no issues. Don't sit and ponder about that, because coming to your next question, it eats up on your time. It eats up on your time. You don't have to worry about not understanding each and every letter to the T. You only have to try to understand what is the overall gist of what is being said in the pattern. And if you have done your studies, you should be knowing the decent amount, like let's say one or two grammar patterns from the sentence you are able to recognize. Read it and try to create an image in your mind. Then look at the question. Question mein what is being said. For example, let's say if they are saying ki, find out what is this. For example, what is this person saying at this time? And they have specifically underlined it. Don't waste your time in other things. Only read that question and answer that. You don't have to waste your time on other things. And by the way, even let's say you have a grammar section and vocabulary section. If I have seen people who spend a lot of time on their grammar is a good thing. You grammar is something that a lot of people feel doubtful about. It is something like we even in our schools, like even if a very simple calculation was 10 plus 15 or something like that, and if you have a calculator in hand, even that also you sit and check. So it is something like that. It's an innate nature of us to confirm everything very thoroughly. But let's say if you are decently done with grammar now, if you feel ki, yes, this question sounds correct and I'm decently confident with it, color it and move on to the next question. Don't think about it again and again, because that is only going to raise your doubts and that is going to eat out on your reading time, because reading takes a bit of time. If you're slow on your reading, allocate more time to that rather than grammar. Because if you're feeling certainly like fairly confident about your grammar, now trust me, you don't have to worry too much about it. Like even if let's say one to two questions are wrong, you will be able to pass the exam. Yes. So focus, allocate more time on your reading. Then how much time can we dedicate per day for preparation? It depends on how your schedule is. Now, I do not advocate for one particular number, but I advocate for something called as a holistic program. So, for example, holistic studies. So you should not only study one thing in particular. Let's say, like okay, like okay, how do I study Japanese? So every day I will study 10 words, and at the end I will be done. So complete. It does not work like that. You will forget the 10 words like anything. The next word day you will probably forget those 10 words. So don't do it like this. How to do that? You should allocate, let's say, 1 to 2 hours per day. 1 to 2 hours per day depends on how far you are seeing into the exam. If you are planning for the N5 and JLP in July 26, then you can give 1 hour, 1 to 2 hour. At the end of the exam, till the exam, you should have like around 200 to 500 hours of preparation. That suffices for the GLPT N5, and that is something, that is a level wherein you can also get confidence about yourself. Okay? So yes, 200 to 500 hours of preparation, that is self preparation, and revision. Yes. Then coming to your question, that how much time do we need for preparation? Let's say if you are giving it for December and you don't have that much time in your hand, you can do a half an hour, 1 hour. And let's say if you have your weekends, put in more time in your weekends. I know that there are a lot of fun things to do in weekends. I know weekends should be kept for other things also, but please watch some Japanese things. I'm not asking you to do boring things like revising vocabulary or learning this vocabularies in a dictionary form, ki ye wala thing and this meaning, this word, this meaning. Don't do that. That is only going to make you sleep only. Watch some Japanese movie, watch some Japanese anime, read some Japanese comic, read some Japanese thing or some Japanese interesting fun facts also to increase your motivation and also to allow Japanese to enter your ears, because the brain is a powerful machine. The brain, even if you don't do it directly, the brain is sort of subconsciously trying to understand what is being said. So if you try to increase the amount of Japanese that you are putting into your ears in a day, what happens, your brain is sort of tricked into thinking, yes, this is not something as a hobby that you're doing, this is not some that random 10-minute 15 minutes thing that you're sort of targeting as a resolution or something. This is a thing that you need in life, because if you don't learn it, you will not understand something crucial. You basically trick your brain into thinking that. And that is a very important thing to do. When you do that, studying becomes much more easy, and your study becomes much more productive also. So yes, don't burden with too much study at one time. Take it comfortably, enjoy the process. If you have weekends, don't always study like 5 2 hours, I'll 5 or 5 6 hours, I'll completely study. Instead, I would say watch a 3 hour movie, watch a 2 hour, read a 2 hour comic or something, that if you have that much free time, enjoy that process. And next day, study whatever you got out from the movie, got out from the anime. Yes, I hope that uh, explained your question. How can we manage time efficiently during reading and listening sections? It is important to understand the listening sections. You don't have to worry too much about time management. There is actually nothing about time management in the case of listening sections, because let's say if there is only one time that is given. So let's say if that audio plays and you hear it, then good. If you don't, because you don't have the time to move on to the next, like will not be given too much time. They will quickly go on to the next question. So you have only have like somewhere around 30 seconds in bunch of two questions. So within that you will have to answer. Yes. Coming to the reading. Now reading is something which a lot of people do face problems with. Again, going to the fact that reading, you don't have to read every each and word to the T. What you have to understand is you should understand the gist of it. First, skim through the paper, try to understand what is being said in the paper. So let's say if it is it's a if it's a dokkai about the Japanese working hours. Let's say if it's a dokkai about the Japanese working hours or the Japanese workplace. If you don't have to know each and every detail about it, you just have to read the entire. You just have to skim through it, and you have to understand what is the topic of it. Now, do we have to do that every time? Not even that also. You have to first, again, as I said, first read the question. What is the question saying? Is that question something like, what is the author trying to talk about, or what is the author trying to say here? Then yes, you will have to skim through the entire passage and you will have to get a feel for what the author is trying to say. Let's say you get stuck in one particular grammar topic. Don't worry about that grammar topic. Move to the next one, because sometimes the next sentence gives you a hint about what comes before. Yes, so that happens. So, for example, let's say, for example, Tanaka-san wa kono kusuri o nonda houga ii desu yo. Tanaka-san wa kono kusuri o nonda houga ii desu yo. Tanaka-san, it would be better if you drink this kusuri. Now you don't know what is nonda houga ii. You don't realize this grammar pattern. You forgot this grammar pattern. What is houga ii or iri? I don't remember. And in the very next sentence, they will say, kore o shitara, kore o shitara, 風邪が治りますよ。これをすると、いや、これをしたら風邪が治りますよ。So, and now you do this. If you do this, your cold will get good. You will be relieved of your cold. You will not have cold. Your cold will fix itself. So this thing and you know that nomu means to drink. Acha, okay. So nonda hoga ii desu yo. Kore o shitara. Okay, okay. It is something, basically an advice is being said. Ki please drink this, and it would be better if you something. Your brain can join the patterns. If you are able to translate the next sentence, it sort of goes back, it backtracks to the previous sentence, and it is able to understand what is being said. Like it will create a grammar pattern or a logic of its own. So yes, don't worry too much about not understanding each and everything in the grammar reading section. Just try to understand the gist of it. If you are able to understand, good. If not, move on to the next sentence, because there are hints in the next part also. So you will be able to relocate to the first previous part. Acha, okay, this is what was being said. Because sometimes the topic is not in the first of the part; it is usually at the hidden in the later parts. So when you come to the later part, oh, the entire puzzle gets solved. Okay, this is the thing that they are talking about. So yes, that is a good way of efficiently managing your time during reading sections. Now coming to the what is the scope of jobs currently in Japan? Which all fields are upcoming in Japan? Japan, as you might know, Japan as a population, it has a very high old age population. It has an aging population, so they are in the middle of a population crisis. Now, I'm not saying it as a good thing, but particularly it is a dire situation for Japan, and it has to borrow people from other countries. Now, even though do say that do have a strict immigration policy, so what do you have to do? You have to basically appeal to them. And what is one way of appealing to the Japanese authorities? It is by learning Japanese. Actually, Japanese works a lot when you are trying to appeal to the Japanese authorities. For example, if I had to give you an example, any job that you're trying to do in Japan, let's say if you have an N2 certificate or an N1 certificate. If you have an N2 certificate, you get a point-based preferential system. There is something called as a point-based preferential system, and based on that point based preferential system, you will be given 10 points if you have an N2. So let's say if there is like 70 points as a cutoff, and you get somewhere around like your experience, your manners, your past criminal records, all of these things were calculated, and you get somewhere around 65 points. Just miss. So what you can do, Ari, but I also have this N2 certificate that I hid it in the cupboard. Why hid it in the cupboard? Because a JLPT certificate applies for a lifetime. So you can just solve a JLPT and you can just throw it inside the cupboard. It can just be there and it will be applicable for an entire lifetime. It will never get expired. So let's say you take this out and guess what? You are getting 10 free points for that. So you it directly raises from 65 to 75. Okay, so what happens? 70 points. Like, should I be happy about it? Yes, you should be happy about it if you are particularly aiming for immigrating to Japan because your permanent residency ka time decreases. There are other catches to that also. Let's say, not about this, but you can also do it through other means, like let's say if you are marrying a Japanese spouse and things like that. But that is that's a different, completely different thing. That's a social thing. If you want to do it through academics alone, or if you want to do it through your own skills, Japanese, learning Japanese is one of the best ways to do it. Your permanent residency times gets reduced to almost, for example, it's normally 10 years, it gets reduced to 5 years. So, yes. Now, coming to your question of what is the scope of jobs, industries like, for example, let's say AI industries, that will be a very cliche answer, and that is a true answer. Even though no matter how cliche the AI word is, it stands true for Japan also. And particularly, I'm not talking about like AI as in large language models. I'm talking about robotics, particularly in robotics. If you might heard about it, out of the top four companies, the major two companies, like there is a big four for the robotic sector also, and out of that, the top two companies are in fact Japanese. The other two are something like a German company and the Swiss company, but the top two companies are Japanese. Like for example, you have the major company for Fanak. Fanak is one of the biggest robotic giants in the entire world. Yes, and let's say if you are interested in optics, if you are like particularly interested in optic engineering or any kind of engineering that has to deal with photography. Even if you have a skill in not just engineering, let's say if you are interested in photography itself, Japan has a very big thing, very big platter to serve in front of you. Why? Because no matter which store you go in, no matter where you go in, there will always be a camera that was made in Japan. Panasonic Japan, Sony Japan, Kodak Japan, Nikon Japan, Olympus Japan. Yes, so it's going to be a Japanese camera. And then you also have an automobile sector. Even Indian people know people those who are working in the Indian automobile sector, they do know thoroughly what is the advantage of having a let's say good thorough hold in Japanese, because you are much strongly able to appease to your Japanese seniors because they feel happy. If I had to be honest, their English is not that well. Again, it depends on the person. But let's say if some person is there, some Japanese person, and he's not able to speak in a very good English tone, and you come up and you are speaking Japanese, he feels appreciated. He feels that someone out there is trying to understand me more. And that creates a better relationship, that creates a better colleague relationship. So there is, in general, a very good benefit in learning Japanese. Yeah. Yes. I hope that solves your doubt, Neha-san. By the way, at any stage, you don't have to worry about learning Japanese, huh? Because people feel that Japanese is something which is a detriment. It stops us from moving to Japan or it stops us from understanding Japan better. But trust me, that is not the case. If you enjoy the process, and we at TLS particularly aim for that, like we particularly aim for making the process enjoyable. So let's say after 1 or 2 years, you should be able to feel so proud about your Japanese. Yes, this is not just some hobby that I have. This is an identity of myself. And learning any language for that matter is not just a case of I am trying to learn something new. It is also trying to learn a new perspective. If I have to give a literal Japanese example, if you want to know a Japanese grammar example, in English, you might say something like if somebody does something for you. For example, let's say my friend Tanaka drove me to the airport. It's as simple as that. My Tanaka-san drove me to the airport, or my Tanaka-san gave me a ride to the airport. There is no inbuilt sense of appreciation in that, and it is sort of similar in our own Indian languages also. But Japanese has this new grammar pattern, something called as kureru. Kureru. If you've heard about it, kureru is basically, for example, 田中さんが私を送ってくれた。田中さんが私を空港まで送ってくれた。A lot of people say something like 田中さんが私を空港まで送りました, which means Tanaka-san sent me to the airport, or Tanaka-san, gave me a lift to the airport, sent me to the airport, like, travel together to the airport. It's something like it has a very unnatural nuance. Even though it is grammatically correct, it is unnatural. Why? Because in Japan, there is an inbuilt sense of appreciation for if somebody does something for you. For example, let's say if somebody buys something for you, you will not just say, for example, Tanaka-sanga, let's say I want to say he brought a toy. He brought a toy for me. Tanaka-san ga omocha o kaimashita. That would be unnatural because you are saying Tanaka-san bought a toy. But when you are saying ki Tanaka-san brought a toy, it is usually, and you are the receiver of that action, probably you will not say it a lot, like it will not be very like evident in English or other language, but in Japanese you will definitely have to use katte kureta or katte kuremashita if you want to be polite, because in Japanese there is a sense of appreciation that you should show when someone is doing something for you, even if like the probably the effect might not be there, like the consequence might not be a good consequence, still you should be thankful for whatever is there, whatever is someone is does for you. So now this, why am I telling you this? Because this helps you to understand a completely new perspective. There are languages out there, there are countries out there which have been relatively isolated for thousands of years, and Japan is one of the examples. So there are some things which are particular only to Japanese, only to Japan and only to Japanese, and these are some of the things you might have learned about. A lot of these philosophy concepts like wabi sabi, ikigai, let's say kintsugi. There is another beautiful concept called kintsugi. Kintsugi. Kintsugi is basically there. It is a traditional form of Japanese pottery, wherein they mend the broken parts of a pot together with gold. Together with gold. So let's say if your bowl or if your vase breaks, should I throw it away? Never. Latch them together or stick them together with gold. What happens? Basically, you broke, or let's say you broke a vase, the vase broke, but it came out stronger. Now it looks even more beautiful. So you can, you can say you can uh, extrapolate it to our own life itself. So Japanese also teaches some philosophical things like, let's say if you're facing any problems, if you're facing any kind of problems, if you feel broken, remember you can mend yourself with gold and you can come out as a better person. So Japanese offers a lot of new things to learn, not even just in the format of language, but even in the format of a human being or a personality. So it offers a lot of things. It is imbibed in their culture. It is imbibed in their politeness also. Yes, it inculcates a lot of new things. and we in particular in at TLS, we do know about this. We are very experienced with whatever we have. We have led the journey. We have not just learned Japanese, we have had a journey with the Japanese language, so we knew the finer nuances of it. And a lot of things that are related to the Japanese culture, these finer nuances to communicate through to the you depending on your level, that is our job, and we will be doing. Yes, so with this I will be ending the session. I hope you enjoyed.